Hey everyone, welcome back to Ghetto Garage. So today we're going to do some preparation for doing the mock-up of the grill and radiator support assembly, and I want to make my true my trued up grill assembly so that I can use it to align for alignment when I work on the front fenders, because they're a little bit crumpled right where it attaches to the ends of the filler panel. I guess in the collision the bumper got pushed back a bit, and then that's what did that. But anyways, that's the long story. The short story is today we're going to be doing some cleanup on nuts, bolts, and embedded nuts, that kind of thing, so that when I go to put it back together, I don't have any problems with like screwed up threads on things, and it gives me some grief while I'm trying to work on it. So what we're going to start with is cleaning up the embedded nuts in the radiator support that I'm going to use. So all I'm really doing here is, this is a 5/16 course tap, of course. So all I'm going to do is just run this through here real quickly. And I've got one of these Husky ratcheting sets, so if I want to make a lot of noise, I could just do it this way, change direction, and just turn it out real easily. Most of these in this replacement radiator support are in pretty decent shape, but there's probably going to be a couple that aren't, so we're going to address those. I already did that one. Now this one, change direction first, and I'm going to do this for all the parts that have embedded nuts in them, just to make sure that when it goes together, I'm not going to have any grief with damaged threads or rusted threads, that kind of thing, that are just going to create more work for me. God forbid I should break a bolt off. That would be a total pain. But anyways, I'm going to continue with this. I won't bore you guys with all this monotony, and we'll circle back on the next step. Now we take a known good bolt and check those threads. Now this one here that I'm testing out right now, this embedded nut needed a bit of work. It was giving me some trouble with the tap, so now it goes in nice and clean, and I had no problems with these other ones. These all feel really nice, so I'm not going to have any grief with those. I'll continue. So if you caught one of the earlier videos where when I was taking these bolts out where it fastens to the inside of the fender, this bolt on both ends of the core support was just spinning, and I guess what was going on was, this is some people call them a J-nut rather than an embedded nut like this type here, and they're just sheet metal bent over with a nut embedded in it on the other side, so they're prone to rusting out, or say the nut in the bolt gets so rusted so that it doesn't, the metal that it's made out of doesn't have the strength to hold onto the nut, so it just winds up spinning. And anyways, so I had to cut it off, and so for the sake of, like if you're going to do cleaning and preparation, strip it, paint it, the whole kind of, the whole schmear, you're going to need to remove this, possibly replace it, or just clean it up. And the best way to get that out, just like I just did, was just simply pry it open. Now, something worth noting on these ones, let me turn on the headlamp so we've got a little more light here, is that, now I don't know if you can see it, but there's a slight ridge right on the underside of the side of this hole right here, and that's designed to make it retain inside the hole there. And so you can see that there's a very slight ridge right there, and for that reason they're a little challenging to get off, so you don't really have a choice but to stick a screwdriver in there and open it up enough to get it out. That might mean that, you know, you're going to have to crimp it back here to close it again when you put it back together, but this one is in decent shape. You know, I can turn a nut into it, I think. Let's see. Yeah. So this one's salvageable. I'm going to have to buy new for the other side, of course, because I've only got one of them. But that's not a big deal. They can be had. So that's noteworthy. So I took this one off to clean the threads. If you can see that, you see the threads are nice and shiny now, and I'm going to put it back on. So I'm going to want to tighten it a bit. Just simply give it a squeeze right there, like that. That should tighten it. And then we're going to stick it back in place. And this is where you can see that ridge I was talking about on that side of the hole, where it needs to, you need to tap it over. So there we go. Now it's in. Make sure it's lined up properly. Yep. Okay, we're good. While we're on the topic of these J-nuts, I just wanted to note that there's 6 of them on the radiator support. There's one on each end where the radiator support's fastened to the fender, and there's also 2 right where the hood latch mechanism mounts to the radiator support, 1 and 2. And then on the bottom of the radiator support, where it fastens to the inner fender, you've got 1 on each side, so you got a total of 6. And here's something I ran into that you know, I really wasn't expecting to, although I've dealt with it before successfully. One of the bolts where the radiator fastens to the radiator support is broken off in the radiator support. You know, so you can see, like, say over there, for example, this one's in good shape. So I ran into that when I was cleaning up the threads in the bolt holes. So you can see, like, there's a fair amount of it sticking out there, but if we take a look at it here, there isn't much there. So I'll show you how I'm going to deal with that. We're going to put this GoPro to the test and see what kind of resolution it gets up close. But taking a look at the radiator side of the radiator support, we see that's where the bolt broke off, and I don't know what happened to it, but it's in pretty rough shape. So the way I'm going to deal with that is there's no sense trying to do anything with that since it's so badly buggered up. We're going to just cut it off flush with the nut, so that when I go on the back side where there's some of the bolts sticking out, I'll weld a nut to that, and we'll see if we can turn it out. There. Now, hopefully you can see that, but you can see there's a nice clean line now around where the bolt is. So let's get started on the other side. One of the things that was pretty interesting about this process, I've done this before, but I've done it on, say, like exhaust manifolds where the stud was broken off, and you had a little nub sticking out from the manifold where I could weld on the nub and build it up, and then weld a nut to it. And the process of welding with the electrical current passing through the broken off bolt and the material that it's turned into, jumping that gap causes the rust to break up. So, you know, and it sort of loosens it. You got to play with it a bit, but it seems to work rather well. Let it cool a bit so I don't damage the nut. There we go. Now let that cool. Another thing that I've done, okay, here goes my neighbor here, dyno testing motorcycles again. So the other thing I've done too is put just attach like a stick welder to this to allow the current to flow through there without actually doing any welding. You use a lower amperage setting, of course, and that helps break up the rusted connection between the bolt that's broken off in there and the base material. So we'll let this cool a little bit and see how it plays out. All right, so doing something a little unconventional here. I'm going to set the GoPro really closely to see if you guys can capture this, and we'll see if we can work it loose. Now what we're going to do is just go back and forth a little bit. I see it moving. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I'm not gonna try and take it all out all at once. I'm just gonna work it back and forth until it feels like it's reasonably loose. Okay, turn it back a bit. Now I'm going to put a bit of lube on it, and I'll be right back with that. So I gave it a couple of minutes to soak in. Hopefully it'll work its way down in the threads there. So now put our ratchet and socket on there. Turn it a bit until you feel some resistance. Turn it back. So we got more rotation going on here. Feels good. Coming out. Whoop. Alright, I knocked you guys over. Alright, come on, baby. Get off there. Huh, I have a feeling something else is happening here, like it's not actually unscrewing. No, it's not. I can feel it on the other side. It's spinning inside the nut. So it seems like the threads are jacked up. Let me see what's going on. All right, this is what we got. Where I cut the bolt off, welded the nut on the other side, and I go to turn it, the ratchet, and I've been turning it for quite some time. You'll see that the bolt is just turning inside the nut. It's not, I guess the threads are stripped or something, I'm not sure. So what I'm going to do is, and I haven't seen this situation before, so I'm just taking a chance, but I'm going to put a nut behind it for, not a nut, a socket for back support, and then I'm going to see if I can drive it out or move it through a little bit more so that I can turn it out. I'm not sure how this is going to play out. I don't even know if it's moving. Yeah, doesn't really look like it. This might be a drill out situation. Let's see if I can turn it. Nothing happening there. All right, so that's probably what's happening. I'm going to bet that the threads are stripped and it's stuck in there. So I'm going to beat on it a little bit more, see if I can work it out. If not, I may wind up drilling it out. Okay, so that didn't play out entirely well. It looks like the embedded nut. I just beat the embedded nut out of it right here. So if I can get it out, maybe I can weld it back in. Not sure, or just find another one from from the old grill or the old radiator support. Now in the course of beating on that, I distorted this a bit, so it's weld up on this side. So I'm going to tap it back down, and I put the socket behind it to give it some back support. All right, that's not bad. There. So it's flush again. All right, now I go find another nut to put in there. Now I'm going to steal one from the old radiator support. So what I've done is cleaned up the threads with the tack on this embedded nut, put the big socket behind it like I did earlier, and I'm taking another 5/16 bolt, screwing it all the way in so that when I hit it, I don't risk bending it, making it difficult to get out after, or damaging the threads or whatever. So we'll take a stab at getting this thing out of here. There we go. That was quick. Now, of course, I gotta undo the nut, or the bolt rather. There we go. There. Voila. Now I've got a new embedded nut to put in there. Now for some detail. So I got this nut and started to look at it and realized that it wasn't something that was like a perfect didn't have a perfectly square profile on it. If you take a look, I filed it a bit on one side. Hopefully the shine will help you see that. But so where's the camera here? There we are, I think. There's actually a recess right here down this one side. So this one side actually has a hook on it. So it looks like it goes down into the hole, and then you tap it down on that side to get it into place. So that's what we're going to do. I took a fine file and cleaned up some of the burrs I created when I pounded the old one out. So we're going to put that in place like so, and then tap on it a bit to set it in place, and it looks like it's going in place. There we go. It's in. Now I think probably what I'm going to do is probably put a tack weld on it, either this side or the other side. I'll take a look, see what. Probably this side, but because since this is no longer a snug, tight factory fit, I may find myself in a position where I'm trying to remove the radiator and this thing spins, and I don't want that. But it looks like the wire brush on the drill did a good job of cleaning it up so it's bare. So now I'm just going to put a couple of tacks in there and call it finished. That one looks good. And that one looks good. So that's all I'm going to do. There we have it. So the replacement radiator support's ready to go. Between the old one, the damaged one, and this one, I was able to get all 6 of the J nuts that I needed, and so now I've prepped the bolts that I need to put the radiator support back in. So I need 3 on this end, 3 on that end up top, and then there's 1 that's going to go into the inner fender, the inner fender. And I'm not going to bother with the core support mounts just yet. I have to figure out what the that's going to be a matter of an up and down adjustment to create the alignment down the length of the car. So I'm not at that point yet. But anyways, so now what I've done is, you can use whatever you want too. I've used what do they call it, an anti-seize lubricant. You could use grease, oil, whatever you want, to put on your threads. I like to use the anti-seize lubricants. They have like a really fine metallic particles in them that tend to act as sort of like a, like we'll say, for example, after the oil part of it gets old and is no longer oily, you're left with the metallic particles behind, and it'll function sort of like the way graphite does, when you use graphite as a lubricant. So anyways, I'm going to continue with this, and I'll show you when we're done. Radiator support is in. Hey. So now with the good radiator support in there, I'm able to start with doing some of the realignment work. So what I've done is I've taken the good filler panel and hung it off the radiator support so that I can see exactly what I need to do here. Like, you can see that there's definitely an alignment problem here. Now, this is on the driver's side, not as bad as the passenger side. This needs a bit of work. But if we come over here, you can see where the damage is. It's definitely needs to be pulled out. You can see that it's pushed back from being in alignment with the filler panel. And if we take a look on the outside, you can see that there's a bit of buckling right here. That of course needs to come out, buckled up there. So this really needs to pull forward, and so that's the work we're gonna get to shortly.